Hey guys, welcome once again to another episode of Cooking with Indian. Of course, you're truly Chef Indian. So today's episode is going to be a quick one, a pretty basic knockout. This is just in case you decided you want to make a coleslaw or something and you realize you don't have any mayonnaise in your fridge. We're going to teach you how to make homemade mayonnaise. We're going to even carry it a little further and show you how to flavor mayonnaise. So today's episode, mayonnaise, check them out. Right, so as I said before, today is going to be a knockout recipe, pretty easy for you to get done. So what we have is a cup and a half of regular vegetable oil. We're going to use about a teaspoon of mustard, a sprinkling of black pepper and salt. We have 2 eggs, one of which you're seeing on screen right now. We're going to use the egg yolks, and for flavoring purposes, we're going to use sriracha and finish off with making sriracha mayonnaise. So let's go. Right, so as I said before, we're going to be using 2 egg yolks. So I have one separated here already. I'll pop that one in the bowl. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to separate the egg yolk very quickly, very easy, right? So we go ahead and we crack the egg. And you know, sometimes you tend to try and cup it in the shell to separate it. Instead, we just throw it in our hand like this. And we allow the egg white to run through our fingers. As you can see, all the egg whites are separated there, and bam. Right, so basically we're going to start by combining our 1 teaspoon of mustard together with the egg yolks that we have here, right, as the first part of the recipe. Ideally, a good pro tip that you should use is having a J-cloth under your bowl. You could do this under your cutting boards as well. That helps to stabilize it so that there's no shifting, you know. Especially with a recipe like this, you want both your hands free to operate because you're going to have to drizzle the oil in as you whip it, right? So we're going to just combine the mustard and egg yolks now, and then we're going to start with the drizzling of the oil. Right, so as you could see here, it's just egg yolks and mustard. It just looks really yellowy. So that's what you have here. What you have to remember when you're making mayo is that you season at the end. So the salt and the pepper will come at the end, especially the salt, because the salt could damage the yolk, which could give problems when you're trying to emulsify. Mayonnaise is an emulsification, so that's like you're whipping the oil into the egg yolks, into the fat, and you're trying to get body out of it, right? Very important is the start of making your mayo. So you want to drizzle a very little bit of oil in first and make sure it's incorporated really well before you really start getting the drizzle going, right? So you're doing a little bit at a time, little bit by little bit, and you just keep whipping vigorously. When you start seeing the body forming, then you could start being generous with your drizzle and allow a steady stream to drizzle into the mixture and continue whipping, and you'll see the change in the body of the mixture that you're making here. Alright, so you could already notice that it's already starting to get that viscous sort of look. The body is starting to change. And we're just going to start drizzling fairly steadily now and continue whipping. Look at that. I actually preferred to do this recipe by hand with a wire whisk, because a lot of recipes you'd see people doing with a food processor, which is fine, but I mean, sometimes I've seen people, you know, the mixture would split. I feel like you have more control over it by hand, and I actually feel a kind of gratification by doing things by hand, you know, like some people find gratification in making bread dough kneading by hand and stuff, yeah. So look at that, you can see the body is coming in really nicely. Right, and this is coming down to the end of our mayo here. As you can see, it's about 5 to 10 minutes later of just whisking in oil, and you could see it looks like it comes straight out of our bottle of mayo. So now from here we're gonna season it. A little bit of black pepper. Ideally, I guess you should use white pepper because it wouldn't show up this much in the mayo, but that's fine still. A little bit of salt. Of course, the salt is to your own taste. You don't want it to be too salty. And of course, a nice little touch is a squeeze of lime. Brings out the brightness of the mayo itself. So let's say this is about a teaspoon of lime here, lime juice. Cuts a bit of the freshness of the egg yolk as well. And this is about it. You just whisk it until everything is fully incorporated and you have your homemade mayonnaise. Right, so we completed the basic application that we were looking to do, which was homemade mayo, but now we're going to take it up a notch again and do some a little fancy, a little bougie. You know, want to entertain people, you're doing something Asian, you're looking for something that have a little bit more flair. So we're going to add some sriracha. So this is just a basic way to flavor your mayonnaise. We will go in with like about a teaspoon, I'd say a teaspoon and a half of sriracha. Of course, this is something that you could probably do to your own taste, because I mean, you could make it more spicy, you could make it more mild, but of course you're just adding the sriracha to this. Also, I mean, if you wanted to do wasabi, you could do wasabi. You know, whatever it is you feel like making the mayonnaise taste like. I mean, maybe later on I'll show you all how to do a proper honey mustard, which is almost a mayonnaise and mustard application. That's something that you could do to elevate your flavors as well, right? And of course you incorporate this thoroughly, and this is what you'll end up getting, a really nice peach color almost. If you could check that out there, seeing that? So yeah, and of course you always want to taste it to make sure flavor wise, spice wise, you don't want to overpower anybody. You want it to be something that's nice and flavorful, comfortable for people to eat, comfortable for yourself to eat as well, right? So if you don't want to go in as harsh as like a teaspoon or teaspoon and a half, you could go in little bit by little bit and make sure you taste it each time, just to make sure you're going on your right track. Right guys, so there's our finished product. Remember, check me out again, Cooking with Indian on YouTube. Click like, subscribe, let me know what else you all want to see. Let me know if you tried the recipe, tell me if you like it, if you like the video, and yeah, give it a try and tell me how it is. We out.